from page 48 and 50, okay? Thought has to be made use of in order to overcome the limitations set up by its own movement. But when this is done, it has itself to be given up. This amounts to the process of going beyond the mind, and this becomes possible through non-identification with the mind or its desires. To look objectively upon the body as well as all thoughts and lower impulses is to get established in blissful detachment and to negate all samskaras. The mind, becoming accustomed to certain habits of thought and response, does not find it easy to adjust itself to these new claims of its own perceptions, owing to the inertia caused by impressions of previous modes of thought and conduct. This process of readjustment in the light of true values takes the form of what we call controlling the mind. This control is not a mechanical or forcible twisting of the mind. It is an effort of the mind to overcome its own inertia. It is fundamentally creative and not negative in its purpose, for it is an attempt of the mind to arrive at self-adjustment in order to release the expression of the true values of life. And now we'll just sit for a minute and then share. Would anyone like to share their thoughts on the reading?
I'd like to know where that came from, Anne. That was interesting. I'd like to look at it more carefully.
Okay, yes, it's from Discourses, page 48, and then also page 50.
Okay, and that's in the 7th edition?
Yeah, and I think it's the online edition, but I also noticed that it's the same as my hard copy, at least most of it.
What's the name of the chapter?
Well, that's a good question. Just look at page 48 and 50.
Okay.
I mean, what I love about these quotes is that Baba is telling us that thought has to be made use of in order to overcome the limitations set up by its own movement. But when this is done, it has itself to be given up. And so I feel like the work of Byron Katie is a way to use thoughts in order to overcome the limitations set up by thinking. You know, I like to say you have to use your mind to lose your mind, because our goal is to be able to give up thought. We can be thought, but we don't identify with the thoughts that pass through us. So we're going to go beyond the mind. That's really the goal of this work. And, you know, and then Baba talks about the non-identification with the mind or its desires. And desire is like such a critical awareness for us to have, because Baba says all of our suffering comes from desire. And if what I'm practicing is to just notice what my desires are. You know, some desires are just simple, innocent, and pure. And then there's other desires that I realize do cause my suffering. For instance, in this last week, I found out from my son that he has a kind of a serious medical situation. And I really felt bad. And I couldn't deal with it that when I first heard about it. And then I sat with Baba the next morning and I just surrendered it to him, and I cried and I gave it to him. And it was such a transformation, because even my desire for my son to be healthy it's Baba's business, isn't it? And I just have to know. Baba actually says that we sometimes get physical ailments to balance, our sanskaras out, and also that physical suffering is easier for us than mental suffering. So many things to contemplate. Who else would like to share their thoughts? Okay. So, Baba, what I also read was that readjusting in the light of true values, which Baba talks about a lot in the discourses, takes the form of what we call controlling the mind. The control is not a mechanical or a forcible twisting of the mind. It is an effort of the mind to overcome its own inertia. It is fundamentally creative and not negative in its purpose. So that's how I experience the work to be, as very much a creative process to loosen the hold of stressful thoughts that we have in our mind. So we do control it to a certain extent, but it's all so that the mind can be freed from these limiting beliefs that cause our suffering. So the subject of our inquiry circle today is going to be seeking love, approval, and appreciation. Now, this is another really important foundational understanding that the work gives us. We talked about the 3 kinds of business in our first session, and that was also really important. And I'm just going to review it. There's my business, there's your business, and there's God's business. And every time we go out of our own business, we suffer. So this week, we're going to look at how we seek love, approval, and appreciation through really manipulation, through various forms of manipulation. And I have to say, I was really shocked to discover it in myself when I started practicing the work. But I actually believe that in our civilization, maybe not all civilizations, but I think in our Western civilization, it's really common. Like a lot of us were raised with rewards and punishments. If you obey me, then you get a reward. And so we learn at an early age to seek love, approval, and appreciation. So can you see this book? This is one of Byron Katie's books. I Need Your Love, Is It True? And I'm going to just read a few excerpts from it, and then we'll stop and we'll just talk about it before we get into the actual inquiry that we're going to do this week. So these are Katie's words. Everyone agrees that love is wonderful, except when it's terrible. People spend their whole lives tantalized by love, seeking it, trying to hold on to it, or trying to get over it. Not far behind love, as major preoccupations, come approval and appreciation. From childhood on, most people spend much of their energy in a relentless pursuit of these things, trying out different methods to be noticed, to please, to impress, and to win other people's love, thinking that's just the way life is. This effort can become so constant and unquestioned that we barely notice it anymore. Now, when I hear those words, I think, oh, that's so shallow, I would never seek love, approval, and appreciation, consciously. But then I discovered where I was doing it in my life, and I even still find it at times. And I think it's when a deep trigger happens And it takes me back probably to my childhood when I was afraid and I really wanted to be loved and approved of. Does anybody have any thoughts on that subject? All right, I'm going to read another paragraph and see if that stimulates conversation. And this is really.
I did have some comments, but I wasn't unmuted.
Oh.
To say quickly that I've always believed that what we want and need more than anything else is love and acceptance, and that all the stuff that we do that is maybe manipulative or twisted or whatever, you know, we go to all lengths and do all kinds of things to get it. To me, and this is just a total guess because I'm not a sociologist or anything like that, but I think probably all humans and plants and animals, I mean, we all need attention and we all want like love, but how we go about it is the issue.
Yes, yes.
That's all.
And of course, the outcome of the work, no matter which stressful thought we're taking to inquiry, is that we have to give ourselves what we want from others. And so this is the ongoing work, and it is ongoing, because I do believe it's like shedding sanskaras, you know, of looking outside ourselves. I mean, in reality, Baba lives in our heart. He is not outside of us. And so when we look into our hearts more and more, Baba says he wakes up in us, you know, as we love him more and more. But this is, I'm going to read you a paragraph that's called "The Thought That Kicks You Out of Heaven." And I think this is all about desires. The thought that kicks you out of heaven could be, I'd be a little more comfortable if I had a pillow. Or it could be, I'd be happier if my partner were here. Without that thought, you're in heaven, just sitting in your chair, being supported and being breathed. When you believe the thought that something is missing, what do you experience? The immediate effect may be subtle, only a slight restlessness as your attention moves away from what you already have. But with that shift of attention, you give up the peace you have as you sit in your chair. Seeking comfort, you give yourself discomfort. Can anyone find that?
And I feel like I get that, but I also, what comes up for me is that if I don't ever like listen to that stuff, I'm never going to improve my condition.
Yes.
You know.
And so it's not so much what we do, but I think it's the way we do it. Like when it's just natural to go get a pillow, to make myself more comfortable. But oftentimes, and I see this in myself, even just before this class was starting, I needed this and I needed that. And, you know, it was like, no, I'm fine. You know, I'm just going to come to the class and learn. I'm just going to be learning along with everyone. And it's just an opportunity for me to be in the circle with everyone. So I know Darwin Shaw talks about turning off the wanting machine. So, you know, we do have needs, and I think the way we fulfill them, for me, that's one of the things I like to do is, like, since I know I need to eat, I really like to make it nice. I like to make it an enjoyable meal and maybe make it look attractive and take some time. And so that's a need, and I'm fulfilling it, but it doesn't feel stressful. So Katie goes on to say, what if you did get a pillow? That could work if you have a pillow. You may find yourself back in heaven again. It may be the very thing you needed. Or you could pick up the phone and convince your partner, if you have a partner, to join you, and maybe he or she would actually arrive. And perhaps you'd be happier, and perhaps you wouldn't. In the meantime, there goes your peace. So I think it's the idea is that, can we just keep peaceful while we're noticing that, you know, we would like a pillow or, you know, conversation. The thought that kicks you out of heaven doesn't have to be about comfort or happiness. It could be, I'd be more secure if, ... Or if only it could always be like this. Or it could be just the thought of a cup of coffee. Most people are so busy making improvements, they don't notice they've stepped out of heaven. Whenever they are, something or someone could always be better. How do you get back to heaven? To begin with, just notice the thoughts that take you away from it. You don't have to believe everything your thoughts tell you. Just become familiar with the particular thoughts you use to deprive yourself of happiness. It may seem strange at first to get to know yourself in this way, but becoming familiar with your stressful thoughts will show you the way home to everything you need. And I also think, because this is a Baba group, you know, we've really learned to give our worries to him. I mean, we're in that process. And so we may not be as full of desires as many people on the planet, but I know that those words still bring home a lesson for me. And it is really about slowing down my mind and just being very present in the moment. Does anybody else have any thoughts? I guess we're feeling quiet today. Okay. That's okay. Okay, so.
I was going to say, I was going to share something.
Good.
I didn't realize I was still muted. I was going,
oh.
why are you listening to me?
Yeah, everybody looks muted to me, except for Anne.
Well, anyway, I hear what you're saying. And I also went through many years in my life when I wanted so badly to be living on my beautiful land that's been in the family a few generations, that I inherited in my own home in nature. And I know that I put my life on hold during that time. And yet it was something that I knew would bring me wholeness. And it has. I mean, I've been here 2.5 years and I love it. And I feel in my element. I feel in a state of well-beingness. And I guess what you're saying is to be able to be aware of those thoughts, but not put our life on hold or negate the gifts of the present moment while we're waiting for that goal or that desire fulfillment that is part of our well-beingness.
Yeah. Oh, very well said. Thank you very much for that. Can anybody find that, you know, where sometimes you put your life on hold because you're waiting for the thing to happen that is going to make a difference? I know I've done that. And so it's always about being in the moment, because that's really all there is. Okay, so I'm going to just read a few paragraphs from this book. I need your love. Is it true? If you love me, you'll do what I want. Is it true? Horses grazing in a field unthinkingly stand head to tail, flicking the flies from each other's faces. At night, they sleep standing up, resting their heads on each other's shoulders. This is what peaceful reciprocation looks like. But, quote, civilized, unquote, people have learned how to use reciprocation to torture each other. All it takes is the belief that if I do something for you, you owe me something in return. If I give you my love, you'd better give me yours or something of equal value. What happens if you don't reciprocate? I take back my love and approval, and I give you resentment instead. The rules of each relationship dictate all the things you have to do or not do to avoid resentment. These rules aren't written down or even spoken. You find out what they are by breaking them. When you see that I'm angry, you know you've broken a rule. You did something you shouldn't have. You came home too late or too early. You forgot to do or say something. Perhaps you should ask what you did wrong, but watch out. One of the rules may be that you're supposed to know without asking. And of course, you find out about your rules for my behavior using the same method. How do you know when I broke a rule? When you get angry at me. In any case, if you do your best to figure out all the rules and obey them, how do you get my love? No, do you get my love? No, you get to tiptoe around me so that you can minimize my anger and continue the relationship. Love seems to have disappeared. Where did it go? You can find out by questioning the thought, if you love me, you'll do what I want. Has anybody ever had that experience where you felt like you had to walk on eggshells around another person? I know I have.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like not sure about the rules, and the rules are really stringent, and for whatever reason I'm invested in this relationship, so I better be really careful. So if you love me, you'll do what I want. This is a thought people have believed for as long as they can remember. So if you love me, you'll do what I want. Now, I'm going to share my personal recent story. So it has to do with my husband, and the stressful thought was, he doesn't love me enough. And the situation was that I really wanted to move to Myrtle Beach, and he didn't want to. You know, he's not a Baba lover. He loves cold weather. You know, we have a house. We're in our 70s. It's kind of hard to pick up and move. But I couldn't get over that thought that he didn't love me enough. And then I actually got a very strong prompting from Baba to do self-inquiry, and it changed everything. I recognized I don't love me enough when I expect him to give me what I want. So I made plans to spend a few months in Myrtle Beach, and it was cut short by the coronavirus, but I was still there for a month, and I was really fulfilled. So instead of expecting that he's the key to my happiness, and I found this over and over again through the years, it's helped me become much more proactive in fulfilling things that I really feel like I need. And then he doesn't love me enough. I don't love me enough. You know, I wasn't loving me enough to just figure out what this tension between living in Montana and wanting to be somewhere else. And so I felt like this work and Baba really helped me to just find the balance. And I can honestly tell you, I'm so happy to be back at home in Montana. And, you know, now we can have virtual inquiry circles, which is quite fulfilling for me. And then I didn't love him enough. I don't love him enough when I don't take into account those things I just told you. He loves living here. We have beautiful mountains out our window. We have the most beautiful views, and you know, he's very Nordic and stocky, and he likes cold weather. And I don't know, it's like, it just all became so much clearer, but I honestly carried this belief around for quite a while, you know, and we've been married for 33 years, you know, and it's a good marriage, but I was really carrying the thought he doesn't love me enough. And then I found many examples where he does love me enough. So I'm just sharing that to show you that the challenging situations in life, they just keep coming, and it's necessary in our journey, in our homeward journey to Baba. And, you know, the beauty is that when this inquiry becomes internalized, it will just smooth things over. And I notice at times I resist it because I'm just stuck in my stressful thoughts. So there it is. So Diantha, do you want to put up that PDF file now?
Sure.
Seeking love, approval, and appreciation. Okay. So I'm gonna read it out, and then we're gonna take our time with it. So this was a handout that we had at the school for the work. So I've just put school in parens, and I just want you to, I'll read it as your life. Consider a time in your life when you were seeking love, approval, and appreciation, a time when you manipulated with your explanations and justifications. I want you to just take a moment now and really find it. Can you find, I want you to just shout it out when you found a time in your life when you recognized that you were seeking this love, approval, and appreciation, and when you manipulated with your explanations and justifications.
Yes.
Okay, great. I can find it. Anybody else? Have you found it?
Yes.
Okay. It can be really subtle. Don't think it has to be some grand thing. It can be so subtle that it's almost not perceptible. So how did you try to manipulate another human being? With your face, your voice, your eyes, your body language, your laugh? Go to a time in your life where you were seeking love, approval, and appreciation from someone. What did you say or do that was dishonest or painful? And who was the participant? And what was the situation? So I just need to know if everybody has found their situation.
Yes.
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 Okay. I need to hear a few. Unmute yourself if you're muted so that we can hear more. I want to make sure everybody has a situation so that we'll be able to pursue this.
Yes.
Is there, let me just say, is there anyone who cannot find a situation where they were seeking love, approval, and appreciation, and where we manipulated with explanations and justifications? Is there anyone who can't find it? Okay. So now we're going to look at these questions, and let's just say our answers out loud. You don't need to explain your situation. Specifically, how did you want them to see you?
As safe.
Okay, thank you.
The way they wanted to.
Say that again.
The way they wanted to see me.
Okay, yeah, that's a big one. We oftentimes have an idea of how we think people want us to be. Yes. Okay, we'll go on. Specifically, how did you manipulate that person? Did you lie? If so, what was the lie? Did you exaggerate? What did you say? I know when I was a little girl, I used to exaggerate all the time, and I realized it was because I was definitely looking for attention. You know, being one of 4 children and kind of the third one, I often felt unseen, and I remember exaggerating. And then I think when I was a little bit older, like maybe 10 or 12, I recognized that that was actually not a really good way to live, and I had to work at it. Did anybody else find if they lied or exaggerated to try to get love, approval, and appreciation?
Well, not lied, but gave answers and explanations that fit their what they wanted to hear.
Oh, yeah.
You know, twisting them, presenting them a certain way.
Yes, yes. And then the next question on this page is, did you, and you can see if you've ever done this, did you flirt, use your sexuality, your smile? If so, please give examples. So you can just find it if you ever flirted, whatever. Were you more interested in how they saw you? What was the downside to seeking their love, approval, or appreciation? So just shout it out if you can find the downside to seeking.
Not being authentic with myself and them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was disappointed.
In yourself?
Oh, in the response that I got. I didn't get what I was hoping for.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I noticed the downside of seeking that is that I'm leaving myself. I'm getting out of my own business
Right.
when I'm seeking something from others.
Mm.
Can you find a time in your life when you resisted seeking love, approval, or appreciation? If so, what did you like about it?
Honesty. I was living in honesty.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think for me it was like just wanting the truth more than to carry on a facade.
Mm.
I think sometimes I resisted it because I didn't want to lose at it. Yeah, I didn't want it to not work. But that, I don't know what I didn't like. Well, what I liked about it was maybe that I didn't get hurt by just not doing it.
Okay. Yeah, good to notice. Okay. Is there anybody else who wants to share before we go on to our inquiry?
At first I was like, I don't know if I ever didn't seek love and approval.
Well, and you know, I love that you say that because I think it's so common that sometimes we don't realize when we're doing it. And of course with Baba, he is pure love. And so, you know, we have like the gold standard of real love. And I suppose in some ways as humans, we all do that. And I also know that we get trained that way, you know, as we're growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really, I think it's part of the unwinding of samskaras to stop seeking love, approval, and appreciation. And we're going to find ways how we can give it to ourselves. And also with Baba, how we can remember more and more that he's asking us to wake up, to wake him up in our hearts. And so that's what we're really missing, you know, is that we want that inner love relationship with him.
And I don't know if I'm a little on the wrong track, but like even with the Mandali, I tended to hold back just because I was shy and didn't want to. I mean, I felt loved by them just because they obviously just exuded pure love or something in a way nobody else I had ever met did. But, you know, I would have loved to now. I regret that I didn't try to get a little closer to them. And it was out of like fear or shyness or whatever that I just kind of held back and wasn't sure of myself. And I don't know if that's the same thing you're talking about, but.
Well, I would say that you were not seeking love, approval, and appreciation. It sounds like you were shy. Yeah, well, but if you were communicating with them, that would not be seeking love, approval, and appreciation. When you're, and we'll understand this more as time goes by, what a really healthy relationship looks like is where nobody is seeking love, approval, or appreciation from anyone. We just are love. And that's the bottom line. Our nature is love. And so that's who we are. And we don't have to seek it. Now, I feel with Baba, we seek to have a deepening relationship with him. And that's a whole nother thing, because that's the inner life. But in the outer life, anyway, I would say you were definitely not seeking love, approval, and appreciation with the Mandali. And if you had spoken with them, that would not necessarily, it would really depend on the motive someone had when they were talking. You know, there's just the sharing, and then there's trying to impress or, you know, get something from someone. So no, I would say that's a completely different matter. But thank you. It's everything that comes up is worth examining, I feel, just to give us more clarity. Okay. So we're gonna do a group inquiry today on someone doesn't appreciate me. So I need everyone to find someone, like find that he or she doesn't appreciate me. And I've done a lot of work on this, and so I feel like I'm more clear now, but it still comes in a subtle manner of not feeling appreciated. So, you know, you can raise your hand or shout it out when you found that situation that we're going to take through inquiry today. They don't appreciate me.
It's easy for me. I got it.
Good, good,
Okay, I got it.
good. Who else?
I got it.
Great, Jeff.
I got one.
They don't appreciate me. And if you need a little more time, we'll just wait. I just need to know that everybody can find this so that we can do the inquiry together. Is there anybody who can't find someone doesn't appreciate me? Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So is it true? And I'm going to say they, but you have a particular person, and you can also think of a particular situation. They don't appreciate me. Is it true? Just ponder that. Yes, it's true.
Okay. Yes.
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 Okay. Is everyone ready for question 2? Because it sounds like we all need question 2. And remember, I want you to sit in this for 60 seconds and just contemplate. And your mind will come up with the answer, but I want you to just sit with it and just see if there's something underneath that initial response. Can you absolutely know that it's true that they don't appreciate you? Can you absolutely know that it's true?
No.
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 No. Okay.
No.
Okay. Is everyone ready? So how do you react? What happens when you believe the thought, they don't appreciate me? How do you react? And just let me just hear your responses. And you can look at the little
down.
cheat sheet. What?
I kind of shut down, like I get smaller or tighter.
Okay. Okay, great. Anyone else?
Now it
Feel
doesn't,
hopeless.
now it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Now it
What did you say, Jeff?
Now it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter?
Yes, it doesn't matter now.
But are you saying that like in a negative way?
No, I'm saying it in a realistic way. I have no desire for love or approval of this person. And so
Okay,
you
but
have to ask me-
remember,
Yeah.
Jeff, remember we're in question 3. You've already gone on to question 4.
I'm sorry.
When you're believing the thought
Yeah.
that they don't appreciate you, how do you react in that moment? Not
Oh.
right now, but in that moment. Go back to that moment when you were believing that they don't appreciate you.
Right. I
What
emotionally contract. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So always in question 3, we're going to actually go into those really difficult feelings and emotions.
Right.
Yeah. So anybody else, what do you notice when you're believing the thought? How do you react when you're believing that thought? They don't appreciate me.
I feel like I don't count, that my feelings and what I need doesn't count.
Yeah. I feel my heart contract. I actually have like almost vengeful thoughts. Like I want to, hurt them.
Yeah, I feel lost or often not knowing exactly what to do about it until I start looking at myself and realize that I need to be dealing with me and what's going on with me and how I'm viewing myself, and then re-examine how I feel about the person and about,
Yeah.
especially in, this particular situation. But
Yeah.
in situation, I try to, at least just for me, I know that it's usually a trigger when I'm feeling this way about somebody else externally that has something to do with me.
Well, and I think it's important that you bring up it's a trigger, because the more that we can remember to just notice what triggers us, the easier it is for us to not tie into it. That trigger is the reminder to us that there's something in us that we need to, we need to pay attention to.
Right.
And this all goes back to how the unconscious has to project onto someone else.
Mm.
And then when we get the trigger, we know that there's something for us to work on. And of course, ultimately, we're going to have less and less triggers, because as we withdraw the projection from that person who triggered us, life just becomes a lot clearer and there's less and less triggers. But we have to integrate, we have to withdraw the projection and then integrate what we're learning about ourselves.
It also that destructive, like, you'll do things that actually make it worse because you're
Absolutely.
viewing it as some external thing, and it's this person, instead of.
Yes.
So that.
And I really see that as the sanskaric connections.
Yeah.
And then we're just building, we're making more sanskaras by reacting and reacting. And that's what we've done for so many years. And, this is about unwinding those sanskaras. And it's painful work. It's hard work, because it's all for us and it's all about us. And when we learn to stay in our own business, it's like it doesn't matter what that person's doing. They're just there to show me where my work is. So things do become more impersonal. And having said that, the relationships can be very sweet. Remember what I read to you about the horses in the pasture?
Mm.
How they just, they put their heads together and that's how we are with each other without our stressful thoughts. We just love for no reason. We just love because that's our true nature. Mm. And it's very deep work to withdraw these projections from others. And I was mortified when I discovered, you know, how much I was seeking love, approval, and appreciation outside of myself in very subtle ways. And you know, you have to give yourself time to be with it and kind of mourn. There's a certain mourning process when we recognize how we have kept this negative story going. But it's liberating because it all depends on us. You know, we don't have to, nobody else has to change. So I know, I saw that Damien and Kate came in late.
Yeah,
So
hi.
hi, welcome. So we're doing an inquiry on find someone who you believe doesn't appreciate you. And then we just do a group inquiry on it. So he or she doesn't appreciate me. So see, can you find it?
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I
got
think
someone.
most of us can find it
Yeah, it's
pretty
not too
easily.
hard to find.
No. And so we're in question 3, how we react when we're believing that thought. And I think you heard, you know, some of the things that we experience when we believe that thought. And posted up here online are some of the sub-questions for 3 that help us really explore thoroughly how we react when we're believing that thought. For example, how do you treat that person when you're believing that thought? So, and then what we do is we just do a group inquiry and we just shout it out, and nobody knows who you're judging. So it's all really, and you just come to see that it's all one mind. So,
I disconnect, Anne.
oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, in my personal inquiry, I do walk on eggshells when I'm believing that thought. When this person that I'm working on, and I have worked it out, but I did walk on eggshells, so afraid of what was going to happen.
Anne, I can add something that I just thought of. The first question, what emotions do you feel when you believe that?
Yes.
I think that I feel when I'm actually believing it, I often will go right to just feeling totally unworthy of being appreciated. And
yes.
Just like agreeing
Yes.
with them almost, like just
And
feeling worthless.
And so it's really important, as we've done the last 2 weeks, then to stay in that emotion for 60 to 90 seconds. And let's just back up and everybody find those emotions that you described when you're believing the thought that someone doesn't appreciate you. And then, so Diantha, for you then it would be to just sit with that feeling of unworthiness for 60 to 90 seconds, because neuroscientists have shown that no emotion or sensation lasts more than 60 to 90 seconds. So something will shift. And that's what gives us the courage to just be with that painful emotion and sensation. And what I have discovered over 10 years of doing this work with clients is that we have such a tendency to suppress and repress the uncomfortable feelings that we just keep carrying them around with us, and then we just keep getting triggered. Like for us, when we feel unworthy, so many things can trigger that. But when we just allow ourselves to feel that feeling of unworthiness, something else arises, and tears might be shed, and then, you know, a beautiful emotion might be underneath that's just waiting. The feeling of unworthiness just wanted to be honored. It's like the wisdom of our body. We can trust the wisdom of our body. If we feel angry, if we feel unworthy, whatever it is we're feeling, let's just be with it and honor it. And we don't act out on it. And, you know, Baba explains that to us, that we're meant to control, but we are also meant to feel it. He doesn't want us to be like a stone. So we're going to take a minute now to just find that really painful, uncomfortable emotion and sit with it. And then if anybody would like to share or report a shift that happened, you're welcome to do that. Okay. We'll have a moment of quiet
Hang on
now.
1 second, Margaret. Hang on, just one second. I just want.
Would anyone like to share what you noticed when you sat with that uncomfortable emotion sensation?
It switched to peace.
Wow. Yeah. I noticed a kind of burning in my heart, and then it went up to my throat, and my throat felt tight, and then I had to like move my neck around, and then the energy released.
Yeah, that's kind of what I just did. Yeah,
Really?
very similar. I was just tensing, tightening up, and then I felt towards the end of it, I was just releasing. And I've also been dealing with trying to release this particular, with this particular situation. So I actually have preconceived confidence that I'm getting somewhere. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Anyone else?
Well, when I went into the feeling, I felt unimportant. My feelings and what I needed didn't matter, but I didn't shift it. I was supposed to shift it.
Well, you're not supposed to do anything, but in my experience, something will shift if you really focus 100% on the uncomfortable feeling, sensation,
Mm-hmm.
and
So I
then
may
something else arises.
Okay, I'll have to try it again.
And so for you, it just stayed the same?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't honestly tell you if I stayed for 90 seconds because I don't have a timer right here.
Mm-hmm.
But you're familiar, we've been doing this in the inquiry circle, and I know that you have experienced how things shift. And so, yeah. And I really invite everyone to remember this exercise when you're noticing that your body is feeling uncomfortable, and just take time out for a minute and just feel what you're feeling, because it does help peel away these layers that we've been, carrying for God knows how long. I don't know. So is there anyone else who has something they'd like to share? Okay. So now I'd like you to notice how you treat yourself when you're believing the thought, they don't appreciate me. How do you treat yourself when you're believing that thought? And just shout out your answers.
I believe I don't matter.
Yeah. I also feel that myself. When they don't appreciate me,
Self-destructive, don't complete tasks that I want to do, kind of punish myself because of, my whole attitude about the whole thing, the whole feeling.
right. So we feel we've done something wrong, and
Yeah.
it's our responsibility, if they don't appreciate us. And, that's a really painful energy to carry around.
Sometimes I go and eat to make myself feel better.
Yeah.
Even though I
And
know
so,
better, but-
yeah. And so that's one of the sub questions is, do any addictions or obsessions arise when you're believing the thought, they don't appreciate me? And, it can be TV, it can be food, it could be shopping, it could be sex, it could be,
All that, yeah.
all kinds of things. And just notice it, and and then our work is to not resist it. I took a whole class once on food because I noticed that I would eat sometimes when I didn't know why am I eating right now when I'm not hungry? And we did a whole class on food, and it was just fabulous because before the class, our homework was to bring something to eat that we really liked into that virtual session. And then we would just eat mindfully, and we would notice different things. And so it's a beautiful way to work with these addictions and obsessions, because as we know, the unconscious is so powerful and we can't really control it. But what we can do is we can pay attention. So just notice, the next time if you go grab something when you aren't really hungry or thirsty or whatever, and then just be with what you're eating and really notice the flavor. And maybe it for me, it definitely helps shift that obsessive behavior, to just, okay, this is where I'm at, it's okay. I mean, my unconscious is gonna be with me for a while, and we know that when our unconscious is made fully conscious, we'll actually be God realized. So we're on this journey, and can I just be kind to myself? So another sub question in question 3 is, what do you fail to see when you're believing the thought that they don't appreciate me? What do you fail to see when you're believing that thought?
Fail to see in yourself?
Or anything, just whatever you fail to see when you're believing they don't appreciate me. It could be about them, it could be about you.
The truth of their insecurity. I mean, in my situation, I think it's from that person's own insecurity that they are not appreciating me, and we can't be on the same level of heart flow. And
yes.
And I have to understand that, as I believe that's where it stems from. So
yeah,
it gives me more understanding and compassion, that I don't feel so bad. I have to have some understanding and compassion, and just say that's their thing.
That's
really has
right.
nothing to do with me. It's their thing.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. That is such a valuable insight, because it really all then comes down to compassion for the other person and compassion for ourselves when we're thinking something's wrong with us. And
Right.
And the truth is it's actually never really personal. And it's quite amazing to recognize that more and more. Does anybody else have something they'd like to share about what you fail to see when you're believing they don't appreciate me?
Well, I fail to see my own beauty. I'm caught up in what I don't have.
Yeah.
And our own pluses and minuses get distorted in our minds. We start just not seeing things really the way they are. And sometimes let's say, we just don't even view ourselves clearly. We're not really just viewing ourselves, and it's if it's personal, like let's say we have a weakness or a strength or something we like about ourselves or something we don't like or whatever it is, um, that it just gets a lot clearer when we're not blaming. For me, when I'm
Yes.
feeling that, um, just, I mean, I don't mean to be stuck on that, but that is my,
I
because
think,
sometimes
yeah.
I don't really have a clear view of how somebody feels about me. There definitely are times where they don't care about me or they don't appreciate me. And then there's
And I would
definitely,
question that thought. I would, because I don't know that we can know that for sure.
yeah, but I mean, we know that, I mean, it just makes common sense to me that that is out there where at times they don't appreciate us, but maybe not overall, not appreciate us. And it's more of our own projecting that's creating
Yeah.
the and making the destructive forces in the relationship with that person.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. I was doing my work on my daughter because I used to believe that she didn't appreciate me. And what I realized when I started doing self-inquiry was that I can just do things for her just for love, for
Right.
no other reason, just because I love her. And when I do that without any sense of wanting something in return, not wanting her love, approval, and appreciation, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So now I notice when I give something or I do something, I just have to be really clear about my motive. And if my motive is because it's what my heart really wants to do, then that's the solution for me to
Yeah.
everything.
Hmm.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any comments on what you fail to see when you're believing the thought, they don't appreciate me? Okay, let's move on to question 4. Who would you be without the thought, they don't appreciate me? Now, the situation is the same. Whatever it was that triggered us, that situation is the same, but we're just not thinking the thought that they don't appreciate me. And I think Cliff spoke to that and Kate did also. But see if you find anything else about who you are without the thought that they don't appreciate me.
I'm
Well,
enjoying appreciating myself.
yeah, that's just what I was going to say, Anne. I'm like, my heart is like glowing and I'm so happy, because it's just what I wanted to do. And that feels really good. Yeah, yeah. Anybody
Yeah.
else notice?
We're not bogged down by
Yeah,
negativity.
Like,
Yeah.
And
yeah, it feels much lighter.
yeah,
Yeah.
not the heavy projection from other people and their head trip. You're free to
Yeah,
just be.
yeah,
I find when I'm freed up from that, it's like I like myself. I love myself,
beautiful.
no matter what they're doing.
Yes,
And
yes.
it allows us to meet on more equal ground in the relationship. I just went through not realizing I'd muted myself, and I kept thinking, why doesn't anybody hear me?
Oh, isn't that funny? Yeah,
I'm in
that's
All their
great.
fault.
again. I
Yeah.
don't count.
And I think in this inquiry circle, it's fine to just stay unmuted. I mean, it's not too big of a group and
Well, it
Right.
was accidental, I guess. I guess my
oh
finger
yeah,
and I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know. So I
Right.
thought, why do they keep interrupting me as if I'm not saying anything?
Oh boy, the cosmic joke,
Show and
right?
tell. It's like,
Because here we are, we're all in this dream, we've all imagined each other, and all we've ever been is oneself. So before we move on to the turnarounds, does anybody else have any thoughts to share on who you are without the thought that they don't appreciate me? Okay, so let's move on to the turnarounds. So we're going to turn it around to ourself. I don't appreciate me. So you're still in your situation where you were believing that they don't appreciate me, but now we need to find genuine, specific examples of where am I not appreciating myself when I'm believing that thought. I mean, what comes up for me is I just had this memory of just creating this beautiful care package to send to my daughter when she was away at school. And I was so happy, and I put so much creativity and love and thought into it. And then, you know, she never appreciated it. She was in, you know, like 14 or 15 years old. And I just know it wasn't personal, but I didn't appreciate me, because when I didn't get any feedback, any positive feedback from her, all I did was go around with my heart was hanging a little low there. And I was like, yeah, I wasn't appreciating me. And now I can see how I can just appreciate all those beautiful, little, wonderful things I put into the care package. So who else? I don't appreciate me when I'm believing that thought.
I hate to bring up food again, but
Bring it up.
I'll try really hard to make something taste good. And a lot of times I'll put stuff in it that I wouldn't put in it for me, but I do for my husband. And, then like nothing's said, or he just puts it aside or whatever. And, but I like it. And, I know that I put a lot of effort into it and came up with something that I thought came out pretty good. So I should appreciate it myself, not necessarily need him to.
And can you get a sense of how, as we withdraw these projections of believing that we need this love, approval, and appreciation from someone else, can you see how, if we can just give it to ourselves, what a difference that makes?
Definitely.
And we're letting other people off the hook, really. I mean, I remember this Christmas, my son and his wife gave me a Christmas present that I really didn't like it, It's like sometimes you can't help it, right? It's just not your thing. And so it's okay, So did everybody find? Did you have something to share?
Did you let them know that you didn't like it?
Well, I'm embarrassed to say that I did say to my son, well, I really don't like synthetic fabrics. And so, could we return it or something like that? And he just said, Mom, if you don't like it, just don't say anything and keep it. And I said, you know what? That's really good advice. And so I just tucked it away in the cupboard. And I'm sure someday it'll come in handy for some reason. Yeah. And it was okay that I said that, and it was okay that he said what he said, but I could hear that he wanted me to just accept the gift, and so I could do that. Doesn't mean I have to wear it.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any insights, comments on
Well, just on that one subject, sometimes it is, and I don't know what the gift was, but I know that my understanding of what worked well for me changed because of fabrics and things like t-shirts I had all my favorite cotton t-shirts. I hated anything with polyester. And now I like these sport things because if you sweat, you don't get a rash.
Yes.
Kind of weird. So, I mean, I know that's kind of taking it out of, sometimes I also feel that Baba does that with us where something that
Definitely.
way and all of a sudden, 6 months later, that it comes up and we see, it comes up
I
again.
I love that you said that, Cliff, because I can be so dualistic about organic food and natural fibers and yada yada, and sometimes it's just like, oh, get over it. And I guess Baba was giving me that little push, over the Christmas present.
At least you got something, by the way.
Well,
Yeah.
I know. So really, I mean, I have so much to be grateful for. I do go around counting my blessings because the mind is always going to find things to complain about. It's the nature of the mind. And until we go beyond the mind, we just have to live in duality. And there's always going to be good and bad and right and wrong and blah, blah, blah. So, I just love whittling away at these things bit by bit and noticing that things lighten up. Yeah.
Thing how with our faith and with our children and things, we know, like they don't get back to us, let's say, or whatever it is.
You think?
Most because we know eventually you just keep. It's unconditional love that you're giving out, and you're not giving unconditional love because you're trying to give them unconditional love.
Yeah.
Naturally, it's like the love that Baba gives us. And
yes.
And so, and you get these little things back at times relating to that. But
yeah. The biggest lesson that I learned through the work is I had to learn how to love unconditionally and be detached. And I didn't know how to do that. Because I heard Baba speak to me about my daughter. He said, let her go. I didn't know how to do that and still love her. And then the work came to me. And then I learned step by baby step to love her unconditionally without any attachment. And it's just amazing.
yeah.
And I feel like whatever karma, because obviously we come into family groups with karma.
Yeah.
But I really feel that karma is so much lighter now. And even though, like I said earlier in the inquiry circle, I found out this week that my son had a medical problem that really pained my heart. But I was able more quickly to surrender it to Baba. And I also felt, I know that detachment is the best gift I can give my son, because if I'm worried and blah, 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 that's not what he needs. So now I'm just much more surrendered to, okay. And we find proactive solutions, that's part of the work too. But, we just forget the worry part of it all. So let's move on to the next turnaround. So we did, I don't appreciate me. So when we're believing that they don't appreciate us, now find those genuine examples where you're not appreciating them. So I don't appreciate them. And just sit in that for a moment and then share what you find in that turnaround to the other. I don't appreciate them. I immediately find the example that I gave you before where my daughter's 15 years old and I'm not appreciating that she's 15 years old and it's like not her main thing to go and thank me for all the great effort I went to send her a care package. I mean, she's 15, she's really busy with school and her life. And so I'm not appreciating that she's in that phase of her life. And of course, I might not be appreciating that she has different tastes than me and that I might not be able to find what she likes, which is still true. The last time I saw her, I got 1 out of 2. I gave her 2 things and she really liked one of them. So I'm not appreciating that she has different taste than I do. Anybody have something they find? I don't appreciate them.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways I don't appreciate the person I'm thinking about. Yeah.
Can you
I was
give examples, like specific examples?
I don't appreciate the way they often look at the scary side of life. Oh, you better watch out for that, or you don't do
Yeah.
that, or
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. The reason I stress bringing up specific examples is because when you find that, then the next time you get triggered, you're going to remember that, oh yeah, you know, I don't appreciate that about them, but the trigger is much less than, so that's why it's so valuable to find these specific examples.
Yeah.
You know, because you can be sure that the universe is going to test you again and again until there's no trigger left. So who else has something to share?
No, I was working on my sister and I could see some of her good qualities that I take for granted.
Oh, beautiful.
Feeling unappreciated.
Yes, yes. I love that you found that, Jackie, because some of my deepest work was on one of my sisters, and it was finding this turnaround to the other. And I don't remember right now what it was, but it took me at least a week of just sitting in it to find it. And it actually changed my life in a huge way, because what I saw was, I saw that she had so many fabulous qualities that I was not honoring at all because of the things that irritated me about her. And so what happened is I started just acknowledging to her the things that I really appreciate about her. And I have to say, it has really helped our relationship. It's still a difficult relationship, but there's a sweetness in it, you know, when we can just be generous, you know, with sharing some kind of a beautiful awareness that's true for us. It's true for us, you know.
Yeah, there's so many truths. The positive truths about someone and the negative truths and all the easy and the difficult things. And I find that I get very self-absorbed when I'm unhappy, and I get very judgmental, and some little things may be a person that could be a negative trait, and especially about the person I'm dealing with in this inquiry, they stand out to me, whereas it's not even a large part of it is half the time.
Yeah.
And in this person I'm dealing with. So,
Yeah.
you know, I just distorted. I just focus on the wrong things.
Well, and that's what the mind does, and that's what the neuroscientists called the interpreter that's in the left hemisphere of our brain. It just wants to spin the negative story. It just wants to keep it going for some perverse reason. And then when we do these inquiries and turnarounds, we're just accessing a lesser used part of our brain that is entertaining a bigger picture. Like when we just entertain, oh, I'm not appreciating her. And then we notice, well, where I can appreciate this person more. And it just lightens up life. It lifts it up to a whole new level. And, you know, I have to say with Baba, he's so magnanimous. And as I have worked with this inquiry over the years, I do tune into his magnanimity more and more. You know, I think how generous and forgiving and tolerant and patient he is with us. It's just mind-blowing. And can we just be that with the people in our lives? It's quite profound. So we're going to move on to the turnaround to the opposite. So they don't appreciate me. They do appreciate me. So now contemplate in your situation. Each one of us has our own situation. Contemplate those genuine, authentic examples where they do appreciate me. And then when you find something, share it with us, because it helps all of us. So in my situation with my daughter, she really started appreciating me when I got out of her business, when I found the work and I learned to stay in my own business. She just started telling me she loved me all the time, and sharing. She started sharing like things in her life with me that she never shared before, like music. She would share some of the music that she wanted to. It was so sweet and intimate. And it was all because I got out of her business. And yeah, even though she's not somebody who likes to communicate very much, she'll just send me a text message saying, "I love you, Mom." And that's all I want. I really, and even if I didn't get that, I would be okay, because, you know, I'm just learning to love what is, and knowing that everything that happens for us and not to us. So does anybody else have, they do appreciate me examples?
I do, but they can easily blur into triggering jealousy too from her.
Can you
certain things she appreciates about me, like, okay, she likes the fact that I created a beautiful home and she can come stay in it, but then there's a part of her that wants to take over, you know.
So question that thought. She wants to take over. She's jealous of me. Those are like the stressful thoughts to go deeper into the inquiry. And as we do the work on those situations, you'll notice that she doesn't have to change. It's something in us that will shift. And then it seems to open up a deepening in the connection.
I think it's nice to not attach the reaction of appreciation to a specific like gift or thing that I do for someone, because then it gets kind of lost. Like it becomes about me appreciating their reaction or not appreciating their lack of reaction. And then the whole thing gets kind of twisted a little. Like I really, you know, value giving something and not being attached to receiving appreciation back, because it's hard for some people to express it in the moment too. It can have a latent effect. It can come later, or it can hit them internally in ways that they don't even realize. And it's just sometimes very hard for people to know how to say thank you, or how to say that they loved something, or that they appreciated it, or why. And they just want to receive it. And I, you know, want to not put that on them to have to show me, you know, because then it's about me so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, you know, as I said earlier, if we do what we do with just for the only motive is love, that's it. I'm doing it because this is what love is having me do. Then there's nothing stuck to it.
I guess my example is going to the samadhi so many times, like in my life, and praying for my family, and just spending so much time in there, just, you know, like really sending them energy. And And them just not even knowing who Meher Baba or recognizing Meher Baba at all and coming back like
Yeah.
nothing. And so there's my example. But
Yeah.
how can I?
And in the work, you know, we would say it's all for you. It's like everything you do is for you. Like for me, having this virtual inquiry circle it's so wonderful for me. So even though I enjoy everyone here, I'm not dependent upon how you receive it in order to be fulfilled, because I'm fulfilled just by the fact that I'm sharing something I love. And I know it helped me, and maybe it will help other people. But, you know, it's like the Gita talks about, we do the work, we make the labor, whether we're praying in the samadhi, whatever it is we do, but the fruits of the labor belong to the Lord. And that's one of the big messages of the Bhagavad Gita. And it's a huge lesson in life. So does anybody else have anything they'd like to share before we have our closing? Okay. So I have this is from Avatar of the Age, Meher Baba Manifesting, pages 70 and 71, from Bao Kalchuri. The aim of human consciousness is to become pure. To become pure, one has to undergo the processes of reincarnation and involution. The human form is the only form in which consciousness can become absolutely pure. The human form is the highest form, and this means that only in this form can the impressions in the mind be fully expressed and at the same time be fully controlled. So that's what we're working on here. The impressions of the mind being fully expressed and at the same time being fully controlled. In other words, only in human consciousness can sanskaric impressions cease to be acted upon. And reaction to impressions can be controlled by stopping reaction. So that's what we're working on here, is we're catching those triggers. In the human form, consciousness can become pure because all actions and reactions to the force of impressions can cease. Only in human form can the mind and all mental activity stop. Then how does a man become pure? This problem cannot be solved by man. It is solved only by God. This is why God himself takes human form age after age. The avatar comes as the purifier of consciousness and washes and cleanses the impressions of each human mind so it can see beyond good and bad, natural and unnatural. The sanskaric impressions of both good and bad are cleansed only by slowing down the mind. Divine intoxication of God slows down the human mind, and therefore the avatar cleanses human consciousness by giving his wine to humanity. When a man is in a God-intoxicated state, he does not react to good or bad, natural or unnatural things, because his mind has slowed down sufficiently to see beyond these differences. A God-intoxicated man does not react to good or bad. He reacts only to the level of his own intoxication, and so he is not affected by good or bad in people. So, Jai Baba, and thank you everyone for sharing in this inquiry circle today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Anne. It was really wonderful.
Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
Thank
Hey,
you,
Bob.